Lesbian Detectives. Unsolved cases. She's still missing. Yeah, they haven't found her yet. Well, let's talk about it.
They say he vanished without a trace. Could it be a psychotic break or a tragic accident? Police don't know where the body went. Unsolved murders, body still missing. That's unheard. Where's the witness? Lesbian detectives, what's going on? City on high alert, this out the norm. He did what, the who? Man, that ain't real, these crimes ain't true. Then come uncover these theories with us. We live right now, tuning in is a must.
Right now, Lesbian Detectives. Lesbian Detectives. We about to start the show, so get your popcorn ready to go. Pay attention to the message. I present to you the Lesbian Detectives.
And this is Lesbian Detectives. I'm Sierra.
And I'm Elizabeth.
And we're here to talk about missing and unsolved murders.
We are discussing cases that you have forgotten about or never even heard of.
So sit back, relax, and let's start this podcast. So today's case is another Halloween because we are doing spooky Halloween.
Notice the pumpkin, Jack Skellington. I tried my best, but my baby got into it, so it has a little rough marks.
It's very, very beautiful.
Thank you.
So I hope you guys enjoy this month because we have so many Halloween episodes and we also have a little bonus episode for you guys. So hopefully you enjoy this. Today's case is about a young man going out with his friends for Halloween. After he get kicked out the bar, he walked down the streets alone, and that was the last time he was ever seen alive. 4 months later, his body was found in the Mississippi River. When his body was found, people assumed it was a suicide or an accident, but most people think it was an unknown serial killer, the Smiley Face Killer. This is the case of Chris Jenkins. Christopher Mark Jenkins, but he goes as Chris. The 21-year-old was a smart, popular business student at the University of Minnesota. He was the captain of the school lacrosse team. He grew up in Eden Prairie, Minnesota, with his parents Steve, Jan, and his sister Sarah. Jan said Chris is most remembered for his sense of humor. On the night of October the 31st, 2002, Chris dressed as a Native American and went to the bar with his girlfriend and another couple to a Halloween party at Lone Tree Bar and Grill in Minneapolis, Minnesota.
I just want to point out that we do not dress up as Native Americans anymore. Socially, it is not acceptable.
Right. Like you'll get so talked about.
It's disrespectful in their culture.
I didn't know that at first. I really didn't. But I never dressed as one until I got older and went to college and I was around them. They were like, no, that's very disrespectful. I was like, okay.
The woke face.
The woke face. It's like people doing blackface. That's disrespectful too. So it's like, you have to respect people's cultures and races.
Well, they still dress up as Mexicans.
Yes, you told me about that. I was like, okay, not doing that. So it's like, okay, let's make this known. Don't dress up as other people's races. Just keep to your, and we keep to ours. Like, okay, this there you go.
Right.
Around midnight, he was kicked out the bar. He left behind his phone, wallet, and jacket.
He must have been pretty inebriated.
Right.
Because to leave all that stuff behind, those are your valuables. You don't go anywhere without them.
The bouncer watched him take a left on Hennepin Avenue. He was never seen again. He was the first of several young men college students to vanish in the upper Midwest. While it's not clear why Chris was escorted out the Lone Tree Bar and Grill that night, there are certainly contact clues. On February 27, 2003, Chris' body was found in the Mississippi River between the 3rd Avenue Bridge and St. Anthony Falls. His body was stuck between a log. When Chris' body was discovered 4 months later, the police came to their initial conclusion that he had died because of an accident or suicide. They hinted at that reason.
Wow. 4 months later? I wonder when they noticed that he went missing that same night.
Yeah, I feel like not that same night. Probably that next morning.
The next morning.
Like his girlfriend probably like, okay, he just mad. And probably tried to call him. She's like, okay. And then she probably asked the roommate. It's probably like a lot of things snowball for them to realize, okay, he's really missing.
I wonder how far that, where they found him to where the bar was located, what distance that was. Because, I mean, 4 months, that's a long time.
But he was in the river, though.
I know, but...
I know the Mississippi River. Like, I used to live over there. It's big. We would take, like, school trips over there. Like, they used to take us there, show us everything, show us how it worked, all that stuff.
Like, I guess what I want to know is, it took them 4 months. Was it because it was a far distance from the bar where he was last seen?
I think because his body hasn't washed up yet. Because it was in the river. So his body never washed up for them to see. Because you can't really look for anybody's body in the river. I mean, because they never knew he was in the river.
Yeah.
They just thought he was mad and walked off or was like, disappeared. Something happened to him. They suggest that Chris' death has stemmed from an argument he had with his girlfriend. And that he either decided to take his own life or he just walked around thinking about the argument and accidentally fell into the water.
Wow.
This also gives us a good sense of Chris' state of mind. He was a 21-year-old young man who was highly intoxicated. He just had a nasty argument with his girlfriend. He had just been kicked out the bar, which had made some type of sense of embarrassment that he had. His emotions were swirling around.
Yeah, that's definitely not where you want to be at. You just had an argument with your girlfriend. You are inebriated, so your emotions are all over the place. It's dark. You're vulnerable. You don't have your stuff with you. It just went from bad to worse.
Right. Chris was found wearing the same Halloween costume that he was wearing the night before he went missing. Regarding his body, such as if there was any sign of violence or trauma that suggested of some type of struggle, we don't really know.
Wow.
The police never came out and explained what happened. They just said, like, they found his body.
Right.
Because I wonder if he had, like, if he was pushed into the water, would it be, like, a bump on his head, like a bruise or something?
Right.
But
Well, the thing about it, too, is the wear and tear of a costume.
they said it was perfectly intact. And that's kind of weird in the river. Like, your body, like, it was his body was found on a log. So, like, his body, like, going left, going right, like, in the river. Like, I wonder why his costume just stayed perfectly intact.
So that's why they thought that there was no signs of struggle, because it was perfectly intact.
Once Chris' body was discovered, his family had to wait several months for his toxicology report to be processed, which is not normal.
Oh, wow. I wonder what the ideal time frame is for a toxicology report to come back.
It depends on the case sometimes. Sometimes it can go like hours. Sometimes it can go days, months, years. It depends on how important the case is to the police. When the results were released, they revealed that Chris' BAC was well above the legal limit.
Wow.
I mean, we all know that he was very, very, very drunk that night.
Right.
With that being in mind, police announced that Chris' death had been caused by a drowning as a result of an accident or suicide. Though the way they spoke about this case publicly suggests that they felt that Chris has taken his own life. Law enforcement officially deemed this case closed on these grounds in 2004. But Chris' parents, who always suspected that something was off about Chris' death, refused to let this case end there.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard if they mark it as a suicide. Like, it's already hard enough to lose your child and then know that they were the reason that you lost them. Like, that's even a harder pill to swallow. So I can understand the parents why they would say, no, it's not a suicide.
Jane and Steve pursued every possible avenue to find out what had really happened to their son, both logical and absurd.
They hired private investigators and hydrologists to investigate Chris's death, but also consulted with psychics and bought into conspiracy theories that their son had been killed by a satanic cult.
This is what made Chris' parents, particularly Jane, a troubling source within this case. They pushed hard to ensure Chris' case didn't go away. They helped highlight shortcomings into the investigation, but some of their narratives kind of hurt his case. In 2005, a jailman gave police a new lead regarding Chris' death. He claimed that Chris was a victim of attempted robbery that ended with him being pushed over the bridge. This man was reportedly accomplice to the man who was responsible for the murder.
They located and questioned a man who was incarcerated on unrelated charges.
He told them that he had another man confront Chris on Avenue Bridge walkway that night. He said that Chris was an easy target for mugging because he was drunk. He said that the man that confronted Chris was angry that he had no volumes on him because his costume has no pocket. He flung him over the bridge railing into the Mississippi River.
Must have been a really strong man to flung him.
He got that mad. I mean, if you see him with a costume, I'm just thinking about it for a second. If I see a man with a costume, and you can tell by the costume, they have nothing on them.
Yeah.
In November 2006, police made an announcement that Chris' death had been reclassified as a homicide, along with a very public apology to Chris' parents for their mistake during the investigation.
Yeah.
As they should.
I mean, that is something that I admire about the parents. Like, they didn't give up. They kept pushing. They pulled all their resources and try to...
Different resources. Like, some I never even heard about that. I had to, like, Google when I did this case. I was like, wow, that's new.
They try to solve this murder or this case.
In 2007, a suspect who identified in Chris' case, the Minneapolis Police Department presented the suspect name to the county lawyer, hoping the charges will be found. However, the county lawyer determined that there was not enough evidence to file charges. I wonder how much did they need. Did he confess, or they had proof? I wonder whether they have that they needed more of to
Exactly. What was the deterring factor?
Police said that the person remained a suspect. Jeremy Alford was reportedly at the same bar as Chris on that night of his disappearance. Alford is currently serving time in prison for murdering Douglas Miller in 2005. He has refused to talk about Chris' case. Another man went to the same bar that Chris did a few months before he disappeared. After having a drink, he became very sick, almost losing consciousness. Some man tried to put him in a car. Fortunately, his friends saved him that night.
Wow.
When the man was taken to the hospital, a high amount of GHB was found in his system.
Wow.
So a lot of people assume that this might be the same as what happened to Chris.
Right.
That somebody might drug him in the bar.
Right.
But Chris' parents do not believe he was thrown from the bridge after a mugging. They believe he was taken to a van, driving around, murdered, and then dumped into the water.
I wonder how the authorities came to the conclusion that he was thrown into a bridge.
Probably how his body landed or how they found him, I really don't know. Retired detectives Kevin and Anthony believe that Chris' death is linked to the drowning death of 40 young men, possibly college students, in 11 states. According to them, a smiley face was found painted near the crime scenes. The detectives believe it is the killer's signature claiming responsibility for their death.
Those 40 people all had a smiley face?
I watched a documentary on this. I feel like we should watch it next.
But Chris didn't have a smiley face?
Well, they don't really know where Chris was dumped at. That was the hardest part about the detectives trying to figure out, or the retired detectives trying to figure out. The police never told them, this is where he was dumped at. They never gave that information out, so they couldn't go back and figure it out. But, it was years and years later. They say that they like to find the place where Chris went into the water so they can search the crime scene for further evidence. But that location has never been identified or proven.
Yeah, because that would give leads to if it was a smiley face, they would have left something behind.
Where there are suspected location, that has never been released by law enforcement.
Because it's an ongoing investigation, right?
They keep a lot, covered up.
Yep.
Since then, Chris' case has mostly remained cold. His mother released a book in 2009, but it's not exactly a trustworthy resource for the reason above. Jane and Steve do have an idea. However, they think warranted further examination. They do not believe that Chris was pushed over the side of a bridge in that manner described in the 2005 jailhouse confession. They actually have a pretty decent reason of thinking so. They say that Chris' Halloween costume featured slip-on shoes and that those slip-on shoes were still on Chris' feet when his body was recovered. I mean, I can kind of see it a little bit, like why his shoes wasn't off his feet when he hit the water. Because you think about if they like thrown him over. I mean, I can kind of see it, but I kind of not see it a little bit. We'll get more into it in theories then.
Yeah.
Jane has stated that she believed Chris was driven around in a van for a while before his body was placed in the river. While this idea wouldn't be completely possible, there's a lot of facts that we just don't know. But before we end this case, I would like for you to sit back and remember the young man. Chris was a young man that's going out with his friends, but his life was taken. We hope that his case get the answer that it needs. So please, if anybody has any information on this case, please call the police. And this is the case of Chris Jenkins. And let's get into some theories.
Let's get into some theories.
You or me?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't know if anybody else think like me, but why wasn't a 2005 jailhouse man sent into jail? Because he said, I did it.
Right.
And then they talked to another guy. He said, yeah, we did it. So I wonder what happened. I don't know if it's the same guy that they tried to press charge on 2007, but it doesn't seem likely because the police said that he doesn't want to talk. Like, he didn't talk about the case. So that's kind of confusing. But because of that 2005 confession, they reopened the case. They said this is a murder. So this man, I mean, if he didn't do it, he kind of did everybody a favor because he made the police look back into the case.
Right. The only thing that I can think of is if there was discrepancies in their stories, maybe that's why the police was like, no, what you're telling me doesn't line up with what actually we believe happened. And that's why they weren't convicted.
But that's the crazy thing about it because they already classified it as a suicide. But they was the reason why they opened it back up. It's like, no offense, you got away with it. Only reason we can say that they reopened it, we only can say that they asked the police or told the police what happened was because they conscious.
Yeah, maybe a sense of guilt, or maybe they didn't get along, see eye to eye anymore. There was some kind of tension or feud between them. It's the only thing that I can think of, but nonetheless, they didn't get convicted. But now we're looking at the 2007 guy, Mr. Alford. He didn't want to talk about the case.
Right.
Why don't you want to talk about the case?
Right.
He was already like, what if you're doing life, what is another murder gonna be?
Right. I don't know if that state has well, they never said where he was located at. I wish I really looked more into his case. I didn't think it was I don't know. I didn't think he possibly could do it. I don't know. I just had 2005. I don't know. It just seemed that they did it. I mean, why would you confess? You was already in. They was already in jail. They was in jail, and they told them like, "Hey, this is what happened." And another man said, "Hey, this did happen." So I wonder what happened with those stories. Did not line up correctly, or I just didn't believe it. I wonder what happened.
So that just leaves us with the Smiley Face Killer. If we knew where the crime scene was, that would answer a lot of questions because he would have left something behind.
I was thought because like I watched a documentary about the Smiley Face Killer, and it seemed like it's possible that it is a serial killer out there. I always believed he was a truck driver because 11 states, 40 men. Like he travels
for work or something.
Yeah.
Or pleasure.
Do I think it was him? I feel like it's a possibility it was a Smiley Face Killer. Only reason I said that because it was murders before and after Chris. But they was found sooner than Chris, though. So that's another thing. Like, yeah, please watch the Smiley Face Killer. It tells you a lot. Do I believe? I have two possibilities. There's two possibilities: the 2005 or the Smiley Face Killer.
Yeah.
And I haven't looked into the Smiley Face Killer. And guys, I'm so sorry for not looking for this episode. But I wonder if it's still murders out there connected to him, like nowadays.
Right.
I mean, he could took a vacation during COVID time. We all stuck in the house. No bar was open then.
Right.
But I wonder recently, it probably has it because we were heard probably on TikTok or stuff like that. But those are my two, the 2005 one and Smiley Face Killer. What about you?
I mean, I feel like all of them, honestly. Alfred, the fact that he didn't want to talk about it. A lot of the times, I mean, if I'm not guilty, you know what my worst pet peeve is? If I'm accused of doing something that I didn't do. So Mr. Alfred was being questioned and he didn't say anything. So to me, that's a little suspicious. Like, why don't you deny it? Why don't you say, no, it wasn't me? Or prove kind of where you were, what you were doing. I don't know. To me, silence is almost like a sus answer.
So that's our case.
Yeah.
So please, if you guys have any theories, tell us below. Like, subscribe, comment. We can't wait to hear your thoughts on this case. Yep. We are on all social medias. We're also on all major podcast platforms. Please follow us on Apple and Spotify and hit that notification button so you can make sure you get that episode when it first hit. This is Lesbian Detectives. I'm Sierra.
And I'm Elizabeth.
And everybody is a suspect
until proven innocent.
See you next Friday.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Lesbian Detectives. Unsolved cases. She's still missing. Yeah, they haven't found her yet. Well, let's talk about it.
They say he vanished without a trace. Could it be a psychotic break or a tragic accident? Police don't know where the body went. Unsolved murders, body still missing. That's unheard. Where's the witness? Lesbian detectives, what's going on? City on high alert, this out the norm. He did what, the who? Man, that ain't real, these crimes ain't true. Then come uncover these theories with us. We live right now, tuning in is a must.
Live right now. Lesbian Detectives. Lesbian Detectives. We about to start the show, so get your popcorn ready, let's go. Pay attention to the message I present to you, the Lesbian Detectives.